up everyone, welcome back to the LaceUp channel. My name is Mickey. In today's video, I'm going to talk about catch weights in warehouse management. How you, Mr. Distributor, can manage your catch weights, manage that inventory and control for weights, lot numbers, and expirations on every single case. So let's get right into it. So managing catch weight items is a lot like managing regular inventory in your warehouse. You receive the product, you palletize it, you put it away, you replenish it, you pick it, you pack it, you ship it, and there's returns if the product went bad for the customer. But there is one big difference, and that is that catch weighted items have a GS1 barcode. I'm going to go ahead and throw the GS1 barcode here on the screen. You can see how the barcode is broken up into different sections, the first section being the GTIN. You'll also find that some vendors put in the UPC into that field. The second portion of the barcode is the weight in pounds. The third portion is the production date, the fourth is the lot number, and the fifth is the case serial number. Now, almost every vendor that distributes catch weighted items has a variation of this barcode. There is a standard that most of them use, but you will find some nuances between one vendor's barcode and the others. That being said, this barcode is the key to tracking this inventory. Because as you guys know, when you track catch weighted inventory, you need to track the case even though you sell by the pound. So let's take this example. Let's say that you sell filet mignon and you put in a purchase order to your vendor for 10 cases. When those 10 cases arrive, they normally arrive on a pallet. Each of the cases within that pallet have the weight. And you have to notate that weight as those cases come in because you need to be able to track within your WMS that product's weight, lot number, and expiration date as it moves through the warehouse and eventually on a transaction for a sale. So now, you receive those 10 cases of filet. You're gonna have to break down that pallet, notate the weights. If you have a WMS, it's quite simple. You take your scanner, you scan each of those barcodes, and that's going to input that inventory on that pallet for that item. Now, that product, once it's been received and those barcodes have been scanned, you need to palletize it again. You need to take that pallet and put it away. Now at this juncture, you're like, Mickey, I don't want to break down all my pallets. It's going to add exponential workload and overhead to my warehouse process. Well, because these are catch weighted items, you have to get the weight somehow. Now I've had customers do this in two ways. Again, you can break down the pallet and scan each of the cases, or your vendor must provide a bill of lading, some kind of document that has the weights. Now those weights will have to be input into the system as well as the lot and the expiration so that there is full traceability. But once you put the weights in the system, because our system tracks inventory by inventory parameter, that means that you'll be able to track that individual case throughout the warehouse. So now, we've received the pallet of fillets. We've put that pallet away. There's 10 cases on that pallet. Now what do we do to pick? Well, because a WMS should know the whereabouts of a pallet and that pallet's contents, it's quite simple. Once it's time to replenish that pallet will move from an overstock position into a slot where the picker can grab the case and put it on a cart for picking. But when you pick catch weighted items, you have to make sure that you pick the weight because you're selling by the weight. Because a customer says, I want 3 cases. They don't say I want 152.86 pounds. So what happens next is simple. The order goes into the system for a number of cases, and that order goes into the scanner. And the scanner indicates to the person in the warehouse where to go. Once you arrive to the bin, all you have to do is scan the bin and scan the case. Once you scan the case, the system will transcribe what's on that barcode label, capturing the weight, the lot number, and the expiration, and appending that information to the sales transaction. So if the customer wanted to pick 3 cases, those 3 case GS1 labels would be scanned, put on the cart, packed, and prepared for delivery. Now to ship out the transaction, that's as simple as clicking a button on a scanner to indicate that that transaction moved from your staging area onto the truck. But where it gets a little bit tricky is returns. Fortunately, your items are catch weighted items. So if there are returns, good returns, namely, you're simply going to scan the barcode and add those items back to inventory. If the return is a bad return, let's say for instance, the label was damaged in transit and you've got no idea what that weight is, yet you need to be able to move that inventory to a damaged area. What you can do in our system If you have a record of the weight somewhere, you can input that and print your own barcode, put it on the case, and move that case to the damaged area. If you've got no idea what the weight is, you're gonna have to weigh the case, print the label, attach the label to the case, and also move it to the damaged area, and this is all for write-off purposes. I don't know if you track your damages, but most of my customers do, because when you track your damages, especially for catch-weighted items, the pounds of the case matter, especially if you've got many cases over the course of the year that get damaged. So overall, we've covered receiving, put away, picking, shipping, and returns. But what about cycle counts? What happens if one of our bin locations is short of one of these catch-weighted items? Well, a WMS should direct the individual counting the bin to that location and should prompt them for the catch-weighted items to scan each of those GS1 barcodes. Again, as you scan those GS1 barcodes, the WMS system will cross-reference what you're scanning with what's in its database and make any adjustments if you're over or short. That will, in the case that you're over, add a case or two back to inventory or deduct the case if you're short for some reason. Now, the most savvy way to do cycle counts is if you're short, you should probably cycle count every bin location that contains that item. If you only have one picking slot for that product, that means that you're probably only cycle counting one, because the probability of you being short on an overstock bin is very low. But our system supports both kicking off a cycle count on a shortage for a bin location, or for that item across the picking slot and all of the overstock slots. So overall, tracking catch weights can be seen as very daunting, especially when you have to maintain these different parameters on that GS1 label. But with a WMS, you're able to scan that GS1 label and control for that inventory. At any point in time, you can look up the inventory in your warehouse by expiration date and also make sure that that gets rotated out first to maintain some semblance of FIFO. FIFO is super important, especially in our industry, because our products do perish at some juncture, and you need to make sure that the oldest products gets rotated out first. And if you have a product that's coming up on its expiration date, you need to put it on a promotion to deduct the price to increase the demand so that somebody can purchase that product. So overall, tracking catch weights is all centered around that GS1 label. If you can control for that label, any good WMS will be able to manage that inventory coming in and out of your warehouse. Now, I know for those of you that have stuck to the end, you're like, well, I don't have a WMS, Mickey. How do I do this without a WMS? Well, not having a WMS simply entails that you're gonna have a manual process that mimics this exact sequence of steps. When you receive, you're gonna have to notate the catch weights, the lot numbers, and the expirations. You're gonna have to keep those in a spreadsheet. And as you pick, you're gonna have to deduct from that spreadsheet the cases that were picked. And then those weights are gonna have to end up on the invoice so that you can invoice the customer for the weights. Now, this applies for meat, fish, produce, whatever items that have catch weights, it's the same thing. But if you don't have a WMS right now, and you're moving a significant volume, that's the caveat that I tell all of my customers. Do not get a WMS if you're just getting started. If you're just going and starting to grow your business, there is no sense in investing in something like this. But if you have an established business generating many transactions a day, I say the rule of thumb is once you hit $2 to $3 million a year in revenue, you're gonna need a WMS, because a WMS at the end of the day helps you scale out your warehouse. It allows you to minimize the amount of wasted time, minimize the amount of errors, and improve your customer service, improve your speed and efficiency, get the most out of your pickers in the warehouse so you don't have to hire people for no reason. And by the end, you should have a system in a warehouse that allows you to scale, hopefully to multiple warehouses in different locations. But that's it. That's how you manage catch weights within a WMS. If you guys have any questions, go down below, comment, and ask. I'll go ahead and respond myself to any of those questions. And besides that, if you're interested in our WMS, again, visit us at www.laceupsolutions.com. We can make a proposal for you to see if we can control your inventory by the catch weight, but because we work with over 600 distributors, that shouldn't be a challenge. Anyways, guys, go down below, give me a like, give me a subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next video. Take care.